Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 283 of Album of the Day. So for today's album review, I'm going to be talking about a British rock band that have been around for a few years now. Released their debut album in 2017 titled Eternity in Your Arms, and certainly does have a pretty dedicated fan base, like, not just because of, their music, but also, like, they're pretty well known for, like, their live show as well. Unfortunately, the group went through kind of a year-long hiatus from 2018 to late 2019, and kind of around, a year later put out started putting out some new songs that were like teasing for their new record that I'm about to review in this episode. Of course, I am talking about the band known as Creeper, and I'm here to review their second studio album released on July 30th, 2020, and the album is called Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void. Even though Creeper's been around for a little while now, this album is actually my introduction to them, which is kind of interesting because they definitely tackle a whole new sound on this album, like, as opposed to their debut was pretty straightforward, kind of horror punk, goth rock, like pop punk kind of record. But this album, sees them embracing, more old school styles of rock music, like tackling glam rock, vintage rock and roll, and doo-wop, and wop, a little bit of Americana in there as well. Essentially, they are making, kind of like a gothier version of maybe, like a Killers record or something like that. Or something like that, and taking inspiration from the likes of, like, the Beach Boys, as well, like the Beach Boys, David Bowie, maybe a little bit of Elvis Presley as well. So they're definitely creating a whole new world on this album, really the real question here is, like, does this new direction pan out? Is the songwriting incredibly strong? Are the hooks great as well? Does it have enough great things going on to really sort of make the risk pay off? Well, I'm very happy to say that my answer to that question is yes. I think the band pulled this off very well. Sure, because this doesn't really sound like their last record, I can kind of see how this record has spawned both some praise and a little bit of disappointment from some fans. As someone who hasn't really listened to Creeper before 2020, I definitely had a lot of fun listening to this album. Now, the record does have all of these kind of short interludes that kind of intertwine the record in terms of, like, the messages that the album is sort of getting across, but I'm just going to do it track by track from, like, just the songs. We kick things off with Be My End, which is this very catchy, kind of campy piece of pop rock with pretty clever sort of lyrics, where in the chorus the narrator is basically saying that, like, this person that he's, like, attracted to could be the end of him, and so he's basically just sort of telling this person, like, kiss me in the twilight, and why is it so hard to, like, be so cute. And it definitely channels quite a bit of camp with lines like, when the sun comes, we vanish like vampires. I think the song is incredibly catchy. It's to the point. It definitely has some very interesting instrumental moments, including one point where we're getting what sounds like an emulated theremin, like in the bridge of the song, which is a nice little bit of, which is also a nice little bit of camp in there. The song "Born Cold" was, I believe, the first track that was teased for this record. You know, it was teased back in like fall of 2019, and I can say that it is not one of my favorite tracks on here, though. I find that it is one of the more underwhelming tracks in terms of like the lyrics don't leave quite as much of an impression on me, and also musically it just feels a little bit plain in comparison to like other tracks here. Even though I do really like the kind of very extravagant vocal inflections that are happening in this track, and certainly some rewarding moments like that bridge where we're getting this very catchy refrain that eventually turns into this kind of epic moment is definitely one of the more rewarding parts of the track. Like, I don't know, it just wasn't necessarily the strongest choice for the first single for the record. However, beyond this point, we do get a bit of a hot streak of quality songwriting, very fun choruses, as well as definitely some very interesting, kind of very gargantuan musical concepts. The track Cyanide is definitely one of my favorite tracks on the record. It has definitely some of the most memorable lines on the entire record, like "Kissing in the acid rain," black lipstick on a coffee cup," "She's Christina Applegate," "Hopelessly Beautiful" in 1988, and that line of "sobriety won't teach the kids to dance" is a line that kind of made me chuckle because it just sounds so like smart, I guess. The whole track lyrically is basically a goth kid's wet dream in the best way. I think the hook is incredible. Love the piano. Love the vocal harmonies. I really like how it also feels like kind of the saloon type like faux country that I do really enjoy quite a bit. Definitely sounds very much like Bowie during like his glam era in the best way. The song Annabelle is definitely a much more theatrical track. Killer guitar playing, cool kind of synth lines in there. The vocalist just sells it all the way with his delivery, and also I think the apocalyptic lyrics are a perfect little sort of vessel for this story where this person is kind of in a person is sort of with someone he's attracted to, and kind of notices like the world is ending in like so many ways, and is just sort of confirming, to this person that we're all just gonna go to hell in the end. It definitely is kind of like goofy in terms of like its concept, but man, oh man, like that chorus when he is just like, getting into his higher register and just like literally shouting, is just one of the most cathartic moments on the entire record. Like, it definitely shows this album's emo side in a pretty compelling way too. The bridge is kind of an interesting moment. Definitely another kind of goofy point in the track where he's like shouting hallelujah, and that God has left the building line is also a nice touch. The song Paradise is definitely a much sort of more chilling cut on the record. The guitars and the drums have this kind of melancholy, cold sort of feel to it. And also the line of "She tastes like ocean and I fall like rain" is also a pretty interesting turn of phrase. turn of phrase, and it's definitely sounds definitely is one of the more melancholy moments on the record, even if its lyrics do suggest that the person is clearly in love, but he is also acknowledging that nobody survives the night in paradise. The paradise. The chorus is great. I definitely really like how just sort of dark the song feels. Like I definitely really like its sort of camp aspects as well. Including a pretty fantastic Clarence Clemens inspired saxophone solo, which sort of is proof that Bruce Springsteen is also another influence playing a significant role on certain tracks on the record. The record Poison Heart definitely goes more in depth about the character and his own sort of personal struggles that sort of, affect him. And he's talking about how, whatever, woman he comes across, so he'll just, tempt and take them. And also that line of, from the dark, I'll creep to your heart, is sung in such a is sung in such a cool, almost devilish kind of way that I really like. The chorus is great, definitely one of the better, definitely very strong and catchy. Catchy. Musically, the song has these sort of twinkling guitars, definitely some Americana twang that I really like. Like great piano solo at the end of the track, and also huge layers of what sounds like mellotron strings. Then we get a bit of a doo-wop number with the song Thorns of Love, where the character is sort of recognizing the consequences of some of these relationships he's been in, and how a rose may seem kind of innocent and pretty, but then turns out to have a lot of thorns and just kind of sting quite a bit. So I also love the extravagant vocal harmonies on the track. The piano, the drums, the bass, and the guitar syncopate also well. Definitely a bit of an Elvis moment on the record in terms of like the vocal delivery, which definitely seems a little silly, but in the context of this song, it really kind of works. And obviously, great hook on there. And then there, midway through the track, we get this kind of spoken word, which I'm still trying to figure out how the clipping Cupid's wings line like kind of ties into the story, but I do kind of like it though. Also, it does end with a pretty incredible guitar solo, so really that is the cherry on top for me. 4 Years Later is definitely the most unapologetically spaghetti western-esque pastiche that we get on the entire record. And it is a very strong duet between lead singer Will Gold and I don't really know, I know like the other person that sings plays keyboards as well. Her name is Hannah or something, but I think their voices, the chemistry they deliver on this song is fantastic, and I think it is cool how we're getting the female perspectives kind of side of the story here. How they, feel a little bit of nostalgia, hence why it opens with a line about someone appearing drunk the night they met, but it didn't really show. I also do really like how it feels like it's something that belongs in kind of a Western take on maybe a musical or something like that. That its instrumentation and its idea may be a little too on the nose, but it definitely does fit with these performances, I think, very well. The track Napalm Girls is definitely probably the closest this album really comes to being punky on the entire LP. So if you want to hear maybe more of that side of Creeper, well then this song is probably the closest that this album ever comes to it. And it definitely has kind of a so and it also does have an aesthetic similar to that of a like an 80s like synth pop ballad with the line of "We met in a strange time of my life," like, and the kind of eerie way that it's sung definitely kind of reminds me of that sort of like power ballad kind of aesthetic. And like kind of aesthetic, and also and also the chorus, which goes uh, like she is a war in mind or something, and her kiss is violence is definitely a lyrical high point for me on this record, and obviously I love the energy they deliver, and the vocals I think reflect that very well. The song Black Moon is probably my least favorite track here. It's the one track where I like the ideas and I think it has good intentions, but they just sound so kind of underwhelming on this track. This is the one song where I don't hate it nor love it. I just kind of don't really have much of an opinion on it because it just doesn't really leave an impression on me for some reason. The album does end on a pretty high note, though, with the song Uh, All My Friends, which definitely is the saddest track on the entire record. Definitely kind of tragic moment of finality in this tale that the album is telling, where the person essentially is seeing all the relationships that meant so much to him just sort of basically kind of ending all of a sudden, and this song is sort of like his, basically, Will Gold basically pouring out his heart, with forgiveness. I think the piano is gorgeous, the strings that they work into the track feel very lush and really bring the song to life too. Yes, it is a kind of conventional Adele style kind of ballad, but it really hits so hard all the same. And definitely one of the highlights on here for sure. Sure. You know how I said earlier that the album is kind of intertwined with little interludes? Well, there's at least 5 of them on the record, and for the most part, I think they tie together the story in a pretty cool way. The Hallelujah opener, I think, is a nice little transition into Be My End. Also, Be My End. Also, Holy War, I think, transitions pretty seamlessly into Napalm Girls as well. Well, some of the interludes I could maybe do without, I guess. I kind of get it. They're trying to add a sense of subversion to the record, but, at times, the times it seems their poetry is a little too on the nose, so thus, it is a slightly pretentious kind of touch to the record, even though it totally has some good intentions. But despite that, and a couple of tracks that sort of left me wanting more, I loved this record. I thought it was very catchy. I think it was a lot of fun as well. It was well produced. It had great melodies. It definitely has this sort of musical theater kind of atmosphere to it that I really dig. Basically, my only warning going into this record is I do recommend it. I think it's great. But, just don't go into this thing expecting another record that sounds like their debut. Also, you kind of have to be willing to fully embrace and immerse yourself in this sort of camp scope of rock and roll. But if you're willing to take yourself there like I was willing to, I think you're gonna really like this record, and I think you're gonna absolutely enjoy the. And I think you're gonna absolutely enjoy the hell out of it the way I did. So, this is a light 8 out of 10 for me. Definitely worth checking out. That's my review of the new Creeper album, Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void, and I'll see you for episode 284.